a triple heritage while still an undergraduate student at Frobe College in my native Sierra Leone. It was therefore a rare opportunity to finally meet the man we had adored growing up, when in 1994, the African Studies Center at the Ohio State University invited Professor Mazrui to deliver a public lecture at its campus in Columbus, Ohio. The lecture attracted audiences from other universities in the state of Ohio, including Ohio University in Athens, where at the time I was studying for a master's degree. A number of us graduate students, Africans and non-Africans at Ohio University, carpooled and took the hour-and-a-half drive to Columbus to hear our icon speak. Needless to say that we were not disappointed. The lecture, which was a historical and contemporary appraisal of Africa in the world order, was delivered in classical Mazrurian style. And personally, I have to confess that it had significant impact on me as a young African student studying in post-Cold War America with a keen interest in global affairs. Years later, I was again fortunate to encounter Professor Mazrui during my years as a doctorate student at Howard University in Washington, D.C. In addition to reading Professor Mazrui's works, books and scholarly works, including the authoritative Pax Africana and The Power of Babel, which he co-authored with his nephew, Professor Al'Amin Mazrui, I had the good fortune of meeting and interacting with the late professor personally because of my relationship with Professor Suleiman Nyang, the Gambian scholar, himself a student of Islam, Africa, and Christianity in the tradition of Mazrui. Beyond the powerful intellectual that Mazrui was, I also got to learn that Mazrui was indeed a great humanist. Soft-spoken and always wise in his discourse, Mazrui was genuinely passionate about the condition of oppressed people, no matter where they were in the world. In 2004, our paths crossed again, this time in South Africa, where I had moved in 2003 and became an academic at the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. In my undergraduate and postgraduate courses, I introduced my students to Mazrui's work, just as I had been by my own professors more than a decade earlier. In 2004, at the invitation of the South African government, Professor Mazrui visited the Rainbow Nation to celebrate the 10th anniversary of South Africa's independence from apartheid. Reflecting on the state of inequality in South Africa a decade after independence, Mazrui asserted during his keynote address at the 10th anniversary conference organized by the Africa Institute of South Africa that, I quote, "The political crown was transferred to the oppressed, while the economic jewel was kept by the oppressor," in reference to the political settlement between the liberation forces and the white minority rule that led to the end of apartheid. He concluded his lecture by boldly warning that unless steps are taken to bridge the gap that existed in society, the Rainbow Nation's stability will be imperiled in the long term. I want to close by reflecting on his contribution to UNESCO, an agency that I work for. In the last 6 decades since its establishment, one of the most important contributions to Africa that UNESCO has made is the facilitation of a process that led to the publication of 8 volumes of historical material that meticulously documents African history from pre-colonial times to post-colonial time by African scholars from their own perspective. Professor Mazrui edited the 8th volume of the General History of Africa. It is my hope that the African Union Declaration, which calls for the use of those material in the school systems to train young Africans, will come to pass. With those few words, I want to extend my condolences to the family, and I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. When professors stand to speak. Professor, thank you very much. Really appreciate. May I now request Ambassador Jean Kamau to come forward and make remarks. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Prof. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Pauline Mazrui and members of the Mazrui family, the Honorable Chief Justice, Governor Joho, Senator Sarai, County Commissioner Marwa, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ambassador Jean Kamau, and I've been the acting ambassador to the US on behalf of the Kenyan government. I'm on my way out, so I need to say that because I know you've all been aware of the announcements in the media. Today is a special day as we commemorate and celebrate a great man. And I have a brief message from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, and also from our staff in the Kenya mission who have had the opportunity to support the family as they traveled to be here today. And also on my behalf and my family, because we were honored to meet the late Mwalimu Mazrui. The Minister would like to just briefly state that she wishes to offer her heartfelt condolences to the family of the late Professor Ali Mazrui. Professor Mazrui is a treasured national icon and distinguished academic whose work has influenced global thinking and research. He was and will remain one of our nation's greatest assets. The demise of Professor Mazrui is a great loss to the people of Kenya and the world at large. As an acting ambassador to the United States, I had the opportunity to meet Mwalimu and was honored to be part of his 80th birthday celebrations in Binghamton, upstate New York last year. Professor Mazrui was an outstanding member of the Kenya diaspora, and he influenced Kenyan scholars, some of whom, such as Professor Wachanga, spent time developing a production about the life of the late Professor Mazrui. I, on my part, had the privilege of accompanying Professor Mazrui and his wife, Pauline, last year in October to the press club in Washington, D.C., where he went to receive the Rumi Award. It was a very special occasion, and his words at that important function will continue to strengthen the whole point, the whole purpose of the Rumi Award, and he continues to be quoted from that day. I also want to stress that because of that single event last year, the relationship between the Kenya and Turkish embassies have continued to grow strong, and we have found areas of mutual support and partnership. And I'd like to really thank the late professor for the excellent work he did and putting Kenya in such a high position and to receive this award. To Pauline and members of the Mazrui family, I'll just conclude by saying that please take heart in the knowledge that we share your loss, but we share in your pride that the achievements and impact of Ali Mazrui's life have made strong footprints in our nation's history and development. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I would like now to take the opportunity to request Professor Betty Wambui, Professor of African Studies and Latino Studies, Women and Gender Studies at SUNY, and former President, New York African Studies Association and Women Caucus as well. Professor Betty Wambui, please come forward and give your remarks. Thank you.
I bring you greetings and condolences from my colleagues at the State University of New York at Oneonta, from my colleagues and fellow scholars at the New York African Studies Association, of which Professor Mwalimu Professor Mwalimu Ali Al'Amin Mazrui was a member, an organization which has an award in his scholarly honor, the Ali A. Mazrui Award, as well as condolences and greetings from the Women's Caucus of the African Studies Association, USA, which he supported and advocated for greatly. I come also with greetings and condolences from my family, the Njoroge and the Wanjama family, who came to know the generosity, the love, and the care of the Mazrui family as they came to the United States and were often very warmly welcomed by Mwalimu, as we called him, Pauline, Harith, Farid, Mama Alice, Koreti Mugambwa, Little Ali, Grace, and the whole of the Mazrui family. My role here is to continue to do what Pauline did, that is, give a human face to this amazing scholar that is a Kenyan scholar. Who was Ali Mazrui to me? Ali Mazrui started out as my professor, and this is how many of the students that came to know him first came to know him as a teacher. He started out as my teacher, and very much like many others, he became a friend and then a family member, an uncle who had sharp intellect, who had a very interesting sense of humor, who we had many arguments with because we held differing political positions, but who taught me that it was always important to be civil and respectful, who always reminded us that it was important to be proud of where we came from. And we know that he was proud of Kenya. He was always proud of his Kenyan nationality, and in that, proud of the complications of being Kenyan, as he reveals in the Triple Heritage documentary that we were watching earlier this afternoon. He taught us that it was important to sharpen our intellect, to think about analysis, and to provide really incisive analysis as he did. He taught us also that it was important to have courage, to stand up for what you thought was right, and to articulate that which you thought was right. As others have said, he was generous to a fault. His home was always open to us, and now I speak as a student. We were often broke. But Pauline and Mwalimu kept a full table for us. My first Thanksgiving, an important holiday in the United States, was spent with the Mazruis. And this is something that they did for many students who are of African heritage and other heritages who came to Binghamton. Many of them are here today. He taught us generosity. He was warm, and he always recognized us. As we know, he was world-renowned, but he never ignored us. If a president came to visit him, he invited us to meet the president. If you met him in the hallways of the university, he said hello, and he taught us this. And I think this is what has been referred to as his humility. Mwalimu has left, but in leaving, he did what he so beautifully knew how to do. He brought the world back to Kenya. He brought the attention of the world. Once again, he chose to be buried here, Kibokoni, which he loved so much, amongst the Mazruis, who loved him and whom he loved very much, because he knew that if he came back home, the world's eyes would once more be turned on this land that he loved so much. we invite you to continue to celebrate this amazing man and to receive this gift that he offered us. Salam alaikum.
Thank you very much, Professor, for the reflections that you've been able to give it to us. At this point, I would like to request Professor Malloy to come forward. Professor Malloy is a distinguished scholar in veterinary sciences, and at the moment, Professor is also the Chancellor of JQAT, where Professor Ali Mazrui was. Professor, welcome, please.
Well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, before I give my personal tribute to Professor Ali Mazrui, the university had prepared a message which was to be read here. And what I'll do, because I'm going to depart from that, is to give that message, which has been laminated, to Mrs. Ali Mazrui. So I would appreciate if she could come forward and receive the message from me. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow mourners, my friend, Professor Ali Mazrui, Mrs. Pauline Mazrui, friends and fellow mourners, we shed tears of happiness when we welcome a new child to this world. In an occasion like this, we also shed tears of sorrow when we bid farewell to a distinguished scholar and a distinguished Kenyan citizen to that peaceful world where complete happiness exists. As the 18th century English cleric and scholar C.C. Colton said, and I quote, "Friendship is like good health. The value of it is never known until it is lost." For all of us who have gathered here today, we have lost a good friend and an excellent scholar. As the Chancellor of Jomo Kenyatta University, and I also bring my condolences wearing another hat, and that is the condolences of the President of the African Academy of Sciences, Professor Kuku. Ali Mazrui was also a fellow of this distinguished academy, and it is my great pleasure to bring condolences to you all and the family from these two institutions. Now I'll turn to Professor Mazrui as the Chancellor of Jomo Kenyatta University. He had a very interesting statement which he used to make all the time, and he will always say that literacy began at the coast, but it is the last region to graduate. Why is this the case? The missionaries, the Vasco da Gamas, the slave traders set their foot as the coast first. And they brought a lot of new ideas. They brought new items, but this region has been the last one to graduate. And this means that it was the last region in Kenya to get a university. When the Technical University of Mombasa was established, he felt very happy because he said that at least the coast at long last has graduated. As Chancellor of Jomo Kenyatta University, he really tried to pull strings and exert pressure for that institution to come out from the slumber of not having public debates or lectures, and he insisted that the university should have public lectures, but all these fell on deaf ears. I'm still preaching that message, and I hope one day it will be sort of appreciated. I tried to get Professor Mazrui to be appointed as an adjunct professor in one of our universities, but I was not successful. And Professor Muhammad Haida will attest to that. There was recently a vacancy in heaven for a good scholar and a good political scientist. And the good Lord sent for Ali Mazrui. Ali will always love you. We will see you in the morning. In closing, let me state a large tree in the middle of a homestead has fallen. 100 beautiful birds have now to find a new home and a new shelter. Where is this new home and where is this new shelter going to come from? May the good Lord rest Ali's soul in eternal peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Malloy and the Chancellor of Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture, Science and Technology. At this point, I would like to request one of our distinguished scholars and a professor of Swahili culture and anthropology, Dr. Farouk Topan, to come forward and give his remarks. Doc, please. Professor, you want to come back again? Another 4 minutes or 1 minute? No, 30 seconds, Professor.
Thank you. Well, all has been written a lot about Ali Mazrui, but there is one thing which has been left by the media, and that I need to amplify that. He's the only African and the only non-Briton who has given the famous Reith lectures, which are normally broadcast on the BBC and printed in the form of books. Wow. I'm sorry I forgot to say this, but I felt that I need to state this because the media has missed it. The last point is that the media, please make sure that you print what my good friend Dr. Willie Mutunga has said about our current universities, because whether they like it or not, they need to be ashamed of themselves for not accepting scholarship.
Thank you very much. I allowed Professor Malloy to speak because when I went to Aberdeen University and I did my PhD in 1995, I saw professor's thesis in animal physiology having attained his PhD in 1975, 20 years later. When Professor Ali Mazrui was getting his PhD in 1966, Shaukat was only 2 years old. So you can see the big tasks that have been given to moderate great professors and to speak about a great professor. Dr. Topan, please.
Waheshimiwa, ndugu zangu, mabibi na mabwana, assalamu alaikum. I will speak in two languages. I will speak in Swahili. Wankisema ya kuwa nitazungumza kwa lugha mbili, ya kwanza ni ya Kiswahili na ya pili ni ya Kiingereza. I will summarize what I've said in Swahili in English so that we can connect the two portions. Wanahistoria miaka mingi kutoka sasa watakuwa wakiendelea kumkumbuka ndugu yetu, mlezi wetu, Profesa Ali Al'Amin Mazrui kwa utaalamu wake, maandishi yake, hulka yake, na kwa kueleza ukweli aliyouthamini na kutetea vilivyo. Atakumbukwa kwa mengi. He will be remembered for many, many aspects, and some of them we have heard this afternoon. But to me, he will be, from my point of view, since this is a personal reflection, I would like to highlight 3 areas, because I believe that each of those 3 areas are quite crucial to understanding him as a person and also to understanding his contribution. Kwanza ni mapenzi yake ya nchi yake ambayo tumeashuhudia kwa vile alivyotaka azikwe nyumbani Mombasa, nyumbani Kenya. Now those 2 aspects, Mombasa and Kenya, to me represent 2 words of the English language, patriotism and nationalism. And I would like to make a distinction between the 2. Nationalism from the independence of Kenya, patriotism going back centuries for the coast. Indeed, his family has been here for centuries, but he loved them both. And although sometimes there may have been what appeared to be political conflict, there was always deep down a united, a single love, a unitary love for both entities. Kwani kufanya hivyo, yani kuzikwa huku, ni kuendeleza historia ya familia ya aila yake iliyokuwa hapa karne hadi karne ikiwa na msingi wa kimvita, na pia udhihiri humo mapenzi ya Kenya. So we see both. So that was my first aspect. La pili ni utaalamu, his scholarship, which was very extensive, very wide, very deep, and in fact it went beyond the boundaries of discipline. I remember in the 1960s there was a lot of talk, indeed a lot of action as well, on interdisciplinarity. And I think Ali Mazrui has actually symbolized that he has gone beyond boundaries. La pili ni utaalamu wake na juhudi zake za kuelimisha na kusomesha zilizoanza Mombasa na kuvuka mipaka ya ardhi na bahari duniani. Upana wa elimu ya marehemu umekumba eneo za lugha, fasihi, siasa, elimu ya maendeleo, historia na kadhalika. Maandishi yake, vitabu, makala, riwaya, filamu za television, hizi zitadumu. Hasa ile filamu yake ya The Tripartite Heritage. So that was the second thing. The third ni jambo la tatu linagusa utamaduni na vile marehemu alivyoueleza Uswahili wenyewe. That is my third aspect, the third dimension, That is, he very much explained to the world, in fact, to the other Kenyans as well, what is being Swahili? How do you define Swahili? What is Swahili identity? And in this, together with his nephew, Professor Al'Amin Mazrui, they have published books which we have seen on that screen over there, and which have had, if I were to really look into them, one basic message. And that message is vitabu hivyo vitaendelea kutufundisha msingi wa Uswahili na Kiswahili. Nao ni msingi wa mchanganyo. Mchanganyo wa damu, mchanganyo wa lugha, mchanganyo wa kabila, mchanganyo wa maandishi, mchanganyo wa tamaduni. Mie binafsi nimefaidika sana na mawazo yao katika kazi zangu, hata ikanibidi niulize nikitazama duniani, je, leo wapi ambapo hakuna mchanganyo duniani? And that is pluralism. Pluralism ni kitu ambacho leo tunakihisi, tunakiona, na inabidi tukichukue iwe kama ndio hulka yetu. So finally, my time is up. Finally, to me, Ali Mazrui has been a bridge between generations. The generation, and I include some of us here, Professor Haider, myself, in that we had the opportunity of having education in one continent and then moving on to another continent. And we have done our best. Indeed, Ali is the pinnacle of this, to combine the two. How do you explain one to the other? How do you make the best of these two worlds? To me, Ali Mazrui is that bridge. Okay. So in saying farewell to him, and I was very moved by Pauline's speech, I think we need to understand that the greatness of a person lies in his ideas, and his ideas will live on in these books, and there will be other PhD students who will come along and continue them further. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
There's a special request, Professor Farouk Topan, that you continue speaking for another 3 minutes. And I've allowed that. Please, continue, please.
This has never happened to me before.
And this was a special request from one of the members of parliament, Mheshimiwa Badi from Jomvu. He's so touched by your speech, and I'm sure many have. 3 minutes, please. I give you 1.5 as well, if you like.
Three enough. So may I elaborate then on the last point I was making, and that is the point of this bridge, because I have seen it in my own lifetime. Some of us have seen it, those of us who have gone abroad when we were very young, we were educated abroad. And the most important thing that we hold on to is, well, 3 things. The sentiment of where we come from. That is, we come from our roots, where are they? Secondly, the language that we speak. I don't mean simply language in terms of the grammatical language. I mean the idiomatic language that we speak from the heart. I think that we hold on to, and I think Pauline touched on that today when Ali, as you said, would look at something and said, oh, we do this in Mombasa. This is how we express ourselves in Mombasa. That is the second thing, the idiom of language. And I think third, and I think the most important of all, is the awareness of the culture that is whoever we are culturally bound to where we come from. And this is something that today we see a change. This is what I meant by a bridge, because a bridge takes you from one part to another. When we get to the other part, now we begin to see that our children in the diaspora, they are growing up as Swahili, but they're growing up as Swahili British, Swahili American, Swahili this. And here we should go back to the works of Ali Mazrui, because he really, really wanted to close this, or to go across this bridge and unite it. Those are and also finally, and this will have to be final now, and finally, that Swahili is a boundary or has no boundaries. And this also is very important, that we are what we are wherever we are. And I think I will end on that note.
Thank you very much, Professor. At this point, I would like to request Farid, one of his sons, to come forward. Farid is a student at Buffalo University. He's doing Bachelor of Science in Mathematics. And I'll ask him also to give reflections of his father as well. Farid.
Assalamu alaikum. Before I begin, I'd like to thank everyone for helping in even the smallest bit during this trying time, whether it's making an appearance today or offering condolences or helping with travel plans. I truly appreciate it. Professor Ali Al'Amin Mazrui was not only my father, but also my friend, teacher, and role model. I'm grateful for the experiences he allowed me to have, as well as the life lessons I will hold on to forever. He taught me to be open-minded and caring, as well as studious and hardworking, while joking in between. He always amazed me at his ability to have people gather for a single purpose, as he has yet again today. I aspire to do the same one day and impact the world in the way he has. I am thankful for everything he has done for me. Though we're deeply sorrowed with his passing, his legacy will be forever remembered and celebrated. Rest in peace, Dad. Enjoy your final siesta. Thank you.
Shukran, Farid. Thank you very much. We'll also ask now Harith, who is a BA student in African Studies at the Buffalo University as well.
Assalamu alaikum. Before I start, kind of wanted to say the same thing with my brother, just thanking everyone for everything they're doing, especially our Mombasa family, specifically my cousin Jamil, for just, even if we don't see you guys that often, just embracing us as if we never left. But to go on to my dad, it's tough to say goodbye to the strongest man I ever knew. Although I was only able to share the earth with you for 21 years, he gave me more than a lifetime of knowledge in that short time. I'm most thankful for the strong work ethic that he instilled in me. As I grew older, I started to realize how truly incredible his journey was, from humble beginnings in Kibokoni to become one of the most prominent scholars in the entire world. Of course, this was not by chance or luck, but through hard work, persistence, and a hunger for knowledge. His work ethic not only provided dividends for himself and his family, but also the thousands of people that he touched through his writings. While this last week has been an extremely trying period of mourning for me, it has also shown to me how much of an impact my dad has had throughout the world. Whether it's back home in Binghamton, Istanbul, or here in Mombasa, people have continued to come up to me and tell me personal experiences that they've had with my dad and how that made a positive impact on their life. All these stories have made me feel more prideful of my father than I have ever in my life. And all I can wish for is hopefully one day I can make you as proud of me as I am of you. Thank you.
I would like us to be entertained by a poem, and this is an English poem that my sister Mudhoni is going to narrate it to us before I go into asking the speakers who are with me to make their remarks. My sister, can you come forward, please? Thank you. Maybe you can tell us who has written the poem. We've said about you, who is narrating, but give us the other details, please. Thank you.
Asante. I'm not Professor Michere Mogo, but I'm here representing her because she couldn't make it. She's also not feeling well. Professor Michere Githai Mogo is one of the giants that was not mentioned, who is in exile, but has continued to shape what we are doing here in this country. So this is a poem she wrote for Mwalimu Ali Mazrui, who was also my teacher at Cornell University, and I bet why I have been asked to read it on her behalf. The poem is titled A Herbal Floral Arrangement for Mwalimu Ali. Shikamoo, Mwalimu mpendwa Ali Mazrui. Shikamoo, mzee maalim Ali Mazrui. The wind of urgency has given my legs wings, and I have flown back to your bedside, bringing bundles of indigenous herbs from Mombasa and Mijikenda. We are together now in room 308, Kindred Hospital, where Kindred gather daily, pouring balms of love. So get up and swim in these oceans of love. Get up, Mwalimu mpendwa Ali Mazrui. Get up, mzee maalum Ali Mazrui. Wake up and see these succulent aloe leaves I have brought, picked from resistant plants, still growing strong in the compound of your legendary Mazrui family dynasty home. Mazrui's strong breed that resists colonial and neo-colonial desertification of historical legacies of resistance. We will hit the leaves and massage your body, freeing it from the pinning grip of pangs of illness, feeding it with the juices of healing herbal fullness. From the hinterland of Mijikenda to the borders of Kaya Fungo, from the homeland of Mekatilili Wamenza, mother of the art of healing, inherited from Zamani healers, accept this herbal floral arrangement. Mwalimu mpendwa Ali Mazrui, accept this herbal floral arrangement. Mzee maalum Ali Mazrui. Pauline will massage your tired elders' muscles with their embalming healing juices. And the healing juices will stir back the rhythm of your blood flow as we who love you surround her, chanting in chorus the mantra, heal, Mwalimu, heal. 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 Ashe, afya, moyo. Amen. Amen. This was written by Professor Michere Mogo at Syracuse on March 30th, 2014, to encourage her brother, Professor Ali.
With those
Mazrui.
remarks, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Professor James Kariuki, all the way from South Africa. Professor, I welcome you to give your personal perception and, of course, reflection of Professor Ali Mazrui. Prof. Karibu.
Your Excellencies, Pauline, and the entire Mazrui family, all protocols observed. I knew Professor Mazrui for almost half a century, and from that experience, I can argue that I know him well enough to make personal comments about him and myself and our relationship. The way I would like to frame it is to give it as statements or commands from Mazrui to me of how to live life from his perspective. Number one is, thou shalt give a helping hand to those who are less fortunate than you are. Mazrui was generous to a fault. From the beginning of these centuries, I was based in Johannesburg, South Africa. Somehow I became involved in coordinating Professor Mazrui's activities in and around the country. One thing that stands out in my mind is that whenever he came to South Africa, I was called upon to arrange for him, Mazrui, to meet people from everywhere in Southern Africa. He did not always tell me who they were, but I later came to learn that they were ordinary people. Invariably, they were ordinary people. One was a Ugandan at Fort Hare University that Mazrui was sponsoring. He wanted to come and see him in Johannesburg and see how he was doing. The other was a Zambian soldier, retired soldier, who Mazrui was assisting financially because he was facing crippling problems. What you have to remember is that this is the same Mazrui for whom we had no difficulty securing an appointment if he wanted to meet to see the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, but mostly he met ordinary people. It is no secret, it has been said here over and over, including Mrs. Mazrui herself, that Mazrui's house at Binghamton in New York is an African center of sorts. I never had the occasion to visit the home, but I'm told that it is haven for Africans everywhere, from Uganda, Somalia, Ethiopia, to Nigeria. This category ranges from visiting friends to needy children that Mazrui has adopted legally so that they could benefit from who he is or who he was. The next commandment or the next command is that thou shalt boost those who need your support. Many of us know that Wangari Maathai was the first African to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Nobel Peace Prize in 2004. But few know that the Norwegian Peace Committee consulted Professor Mazrui regarding her candidacy, and his endorsement tipped the scale in her favor. Countless others have been helped in a similar manner. 3, Mazrui tells me in my conscience, thou shalt always maintain a sense of humor. Sometimes it makes life bearable. I remember one time, Mazrui was taking photos with various people after he had just given a lecture in Johannesburg. Suddenly, 2 ladies, I don't know whether I should say this with Pauline here. Suddenly, 2 ladies from Kenya jumped and each was holding Mazrui's arm. They wanted a picture with him. Mazrui said, in response, Mazrui said, quote, wengine wa kwetu, but what would Pauline say? To this day, I do not know what prompted that response. I don't know what the lady had said to Professor Mazrui. 4, Mazrui taught, don't let people push you around. One of the running arguments, my running argument with him was based on the fact that I was urging him to ignore academic critics, including me. I was of the view that Mazrui was too big for such engagements and that his work was too vast to accommodate all kinds of critics. He disagreed on the ground that, quote, to ignore critics was a higher form of arrogance. While I agreed with this logic, I think that there was another factor. The small giant in Mazrui was bent on showing his critics that there was a tiger in Mazrui, in Mazrui's tank. That's the American commercial about Exxon. Sorry. Thank you. Is it time? Yeah, okay. So in that case, eventually, some of those engagements degenerated to undesirable personal attacks and counterattacks. The best known of this was the exchange between Mazrui and the Nigerian Wole Soyinka. My time is up. The last one, I think I have to say the last one, please. I'll take the 3 minutes you give to the other speaker. 30 seconds. Okay. Mazrui taught me, thou shalt trigger havoc whenever necessary. In one occasion, I was managing Professor's affair in South Africa. When I was managing Professor Mazrui's affair in South Africa, he was given a check in rand. He needed to cash this check because rands were of no value to him when we went back to the US. So we proceeded to the bank. He gave me his ID, which was the same diplomatic passport, by the way, and the check. So I went and cashed it. Then we were going home to see Mazrui. He was flying off in about 4 hours. And then suddenly Mazrui said, James, where is my passport? My heart stopped a beat, but for emphasis, Mazrui continued. I remember giving it to you, but I don't remember you giving it back to me. I knew that I could not have put Professor Mazrui's passport in my pocket. The question was, where was the passport? Whatever the answer was, I was at the center of the disaster. Imagine my mental state at that point. Here is a global icon that was stuck in South Africa for a known period of time because James Kariuki had lost his diplomatic passport. I don't have time to tell you what happened. Esther Gethinji, my PA, jumped at the rescue. She was with us the whole time. She knew that Mazrui had just changed his jacket when he got into the hotel. She opened his suitcase, checked the pockets, and voila. There was the passport. We proceeded as if nothing had ever happened. There was the other side of Ali Mazrui for you. May your soul rest in peace, my dear friend. Sorry about that.
Prof, thank you very much. You see, I have a lot of professors here at the top. Let me remind professors, don't use that trick of giving us very interesting bit at the end. Start with it.
I set you up for time.
So professors who are here, you can see one after another who is going to stand. Please give us the interesting bit initially, and then you can finish with the others. It is my privilege now and an honor to welcome Professor Muhammad Bakari, who is well known to all of us here. Professor of Linguistics, a Kenyan professor in Turkey, and well known to Professor Ali Mazrui. Also this morning we were reminded of the task that he did, and he played the role that he played when the professor's body was passing through Turkey. Professor Muhammad Bakari, please.
قل اللهم مالك الملك تؤتي الملك من تشاء وتنزع الملك ممن تشاء وتعز من تشاء وتذل من تشاء بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. God, in his infinite wisdom, said, he is the one who gives honor to people. And he is the one who disgraces people. He brings them down from the pedestal. Shakespeare said, some people are born great. Others achieve greatness. And others have greatness thrust upon them. Ali Mazrui was a very virtuous man. And he was virtuous in the Socratic sense. Socrates said that virtue is not one thing. It is the convergence of several characteristics. When they come together, then you describe this person as a virtuous person. And amongst those were courage, honesty, generosity, friendship, and fairness. And of course, these are again the same virtues that are described, for example, by Imam Ghazali in his Ihya Ulumuddin. And Mazrui had personal courage and also had moral courage. He spoke truth to power, regardless of whatever that power was, because he thought that this is my vocation as a political scientist. I'm a student of political processes and political phenomena. And many people confused Ali Mazrui as a political theorist and as a politician. But I don't think Ali Mazrui wanted to become a politician, because he must have heard Tony Benn say that all political careers end in failure. So I don't think he wanted to fail in whatever he was doing. That is why he was passionate as a political scientist rather than as a political activist. And then what I saw about his virtue again, and Socrates was not a Christian, he was not a Muslim, he was not a Jew, he was a pagan. But you can see that his definition of virtue really fits the kind of life that Mazrui himself deliberately chose to lead, which is a life of courage. And he was courageous when he had good health, and he was courageous when his health was failing. And as Shakespeare said, cowards die many times before their death. The valiant never taste of death but once. It seems to be most strange that men should fear, seeing that death, a necessary end, will come when it will come. This is how I've remembered Ali Mazrui. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor, for that reflection. Just before I bring another speaker, I would like you please to note down the email that you can send your remarks, your reflections, and not necessarily those who have spoken here. If you have any other information that you want to share with us, please send it to elbusaidi, kk@gmail.com. I will repeat, ELBU, S for sugar, AIDY, @gmail.com. Please send to that email, and it will be inshallah acknowledged when it comes through, and we would definitely document your remarks. Now I would like to welcome Professor Leila. And before I do that, our sincere apologies. In the program, it is indicated Vice Chancellor of TUM Technical University of Mombasa, but Professor Leila Abubakar, she is a Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs, and our sincere apologies to TUM. And now, Professor Leila, please come forward and make your reflection on Professor Ali Mazrui. Leila.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to convey my heartfelt condolences to Pauline and the larger family of Professor Ali Mazrui. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I'm indeed proud, honored, and privileged to be associated with an institution which actually nurtured Professor Ali Mazrui's academic expedition and excellence. His sojourn at Mombasa Institute of Muslim Education, which is commonly referred to as MIOMI, and later on it became a precursor of Technical University of Mombasa, was indeed a catalyst for Professor Mazrui's academic journey. When he